My husband stole my cancer money while I was dying. That's the sentence that keeps running through my head as I sit in Dr. Peterson's office, trying to process what should be the best news of my life. After 18 months of hell, chemotherapy that made me vomit until I dry-heaved air, a double mastectomy that left me feeling like a broken doll, and more needles than a pincushion convention, I'm finally in remission. My name is Claire Mitchell, I'm 47 years old, and I should be celebrating. Instead, I'm thinking about money, because that's what cancer does to you. It strips away every pretty illusion about love and family, and leaves you staring at the ugly truth of who people really are when you need them most. The scans look excellent, Claire, Dr. Peterson is saying, her voice warm with genuine happiness. All clear. We'll want to see you every 3 months for the first year, but I'm very optimistic about your prognosis. I nod and smile and say all the right things, but my mind is already racing ahead to tonight. For months, I've been too weak and sick to think about anything beyond surviving the next treatment. But now that my brain isn't swimming in chemo fog, I'm remembering things. Like how I haven't looked at my trust fund balance in God knows how long. The trust fund. Dad's final gift to his only daughter, established when I was 25 after he died in that car accident. So you never have to depend on a man financially. He'd written in his letter. $400,000 carefully invested, meant to ensure I'd always have independence. And when the cancer hit, it became my lifeline. Medical expenses, household costs while I couldn't work. Everything Jared was supposed to be managing with the limited power of attorney I'd given him. Limited. That word is going to haunt me. I drive home to my empty house, the same house Jared walked out of 6 months into my treatment because watching me deteriorate was too hard for him. Apparently, standing by your wife through sickness and health has an expiration date, and mine was somewhere between the second round of chemo and losing my hair. The separation had been brutal but not surprising. Our blended family had been a disaster from day one. His kids, Victoria and Marcus, never accepted me after their mother died. And honestly, I'd stopped trying to win them over years ago. My son Zachary, 28 and working as a corporate lawyer across town, had always been polite to his stepfamily, but never close. We were 6 people sharing a house, not a family, but I thought at least Jared would handle my money honestly. I thought wrong. My laptop boots up with painful slowness, like it's reluctant to show me what I'm about to discover. I navigate to the trust fund account, entering passwords I haven't used in months. The page loads. My hands start shaking. $37,000. That's what's left of my father's gift, my safety net, my cancer fund. I stare at the number until it blurs, then pull up my insurance statements with the methodical precision that's kept me alive through 18 months of medical chaos. High deductibles, uncovered treatments, experimental therapies. Even with the most generous calculations, my medical expenses topped out around $150,000. Household expenses during treatment, maybe another $50,000 if Jared was buying gold-plated groceries. $163,000 is just gone. I print everything. Bank statements, insurance claims, medical bills, all of it goes into a neat pile on my kitchen table while I try to keep my breathing steady. This is what shock feels like when you're too tired to scream. 20 minutes later, I'm in my car driving to Jared's rental house across town. The same house he moved into when caring for his sick wife became too inconvenient. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm strong enough to confront him now that I'm no longer dying. He answers the door in his rumpled work clothes, looking older than his 52 years. His brown hair is thinner than I remember, and he's developed this nervous habit of adjusting his glasses that I never noticed before, probably because I was usually too nauseated to pay attention. Claire. His voice carries genuine surprise. You look better. I'm in remission. The words taste bitter. We need to talk. He lets me in, and I notice the place still smells like takeout and sadness. The living room is sparse. He took almost nothing when he left, just his clothes and his guilt. Jared, where's my money? The color drains from his face so fast, I almost feel sorry for him. Almost. What do you mean? The medical bills were enormous, and keeping up the house while you were... Cut the crap. I pull out the printed statements and spread them across his coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. My insurance covered most of the big stuff. Even with what they didn't cover, we're talking about $150 in medical expenses, tops. Maybe another $50 for household costs. So where's the other $163,000? He stares at the papers like they might spontaneously combust and save him from this conversation. His shoulders sag in defeat, and for a moment he looks genuinely broken. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. He says quietly, what wasn't supposed to happen like this? The silence stretches between us until I think he might not answer. Then something in him crumbles. I took it. More than I should have. I know it was wrong, but... He looks up at me with red-rimmed eyes. My kids were struggling, Claire. Victoria's going through that custody battle, can barely afford a lawyer. Marcus can't find steady work, lives paycheck to paycheck when he gets one. And there you were, spending tens of thousands on treatments while they suffered. Cold rage builds in my chest, starting small and spreading like cancer itself. So you stole from me while I was fighting for my life. It wasn't supposed to be stealing. You had so much, and they had nothing. I thought you'd never notice. How? The word comes out sharper than I intended. The power of attorney was limited to medical expenses and household bills. He can't meet my eyes. I used your personal information, made some transfers to my accounts, then moved money to help them. You were so sick, and I had access to everything financial. It was easier than it should have been. Of course it was. Jared works as a loan officer at First National Bank. He knows financial systems inside and out, knows exactly how to move money around without triggering immediate red flags. The same expertise that made him seem like a stable choice for my second marriage just became the tool of my destruction. You violated my trust when I was at my most vulnerable. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stand by and watch my family struggle anymore. His family, not our family. Never our family. I stand up, gathering my papers with hands that have stopped shaking. The rage has crystallized into something colder and more dangerous. This isn't about money anymore. It's about the fundamental violation of attacking someone when they're helpless. I want it back, all of it, plus damages for what you've done to me. He stares at me with what looks like genuine fear. Claire, most of it's gone. It's tied up in things I can't easily return, scattered among accounts and purchases for Victoria and Marcus. I can't just, then you have a problem. I walk toward the door, my mind already calculating. Legal justice through the courts would take years I don't have, assuming I could even prove everything. Asset recovery might be impossible if the money's been spent or hidden well enough. But there are other ways to get justice, other ways to make someone pay. At the door, I turn back to look at him one last time. You made your choice, Jared. Now I get to make mine. Outside in my car, I pull out my phone and dial Zachary's number. My hands are shaking again, but not with grief or shock this time. Mom? How did the appointment go? I need to see you, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Tonight. There's something we need to discuss about your stepfather. As I hang up and start the engine, I'm already planning what I'll need from my lawyer son to make my stepfamily pay for what they've done. Legal channels might be slow, but I know exactly how to make their lives complicated in ways that don't require a courtroom. After all, I've had 18 months to think about what really matters when you're fighting for your life. And it turns out, sometimes the most important battle comes after you've already won. The next morning, I'm sitting across from Zachary at our usual coffee shop, watching him stir sugar into his latte with the same methodical precision he's had since childhood. Some habits never change, and right now I'm counting on that. Because what I'm about to tell him is going to require all the trust I've built over 28 years of being his mother. You look better, he says, and there's genuine relief in his voice. The appointment went well? Clear scans. I'm officially in remission. I pull out the folder I prepared last night, keeping my voice steady and matter-of-fact. But we need to talk about something else. Something about Jared. His expression shifts immediately, that lawyer instinct kicking in when he senses trouble. What's going on? I slide the bank statements across the small table, watching his eyes scan the numbers. Your stepfather stole from me. While I was dying, he drained my trust fund. Zachary's face goes through several emotions at once. Surprise, anger, and something that looks almost like he's not entirely shocked. Jesus, Mom, how much? About $160,000. Medical expenses were around $150,000. Household expenses another $50,000 or so. The rest is just gone. I keep my voice level, clinical. He admitted it when I confronted him yesterday. Said he used it to help Victoria and Marcus because they were struggling. That bastard! Zachary's jaw tightens and I can see him shifting into lawyer mode. We can go after him for financial abuse, elder exploitation, fraud. With my background, I can build a case that will destroy him. And there it is. Exactly what I knew he'd say. Exactly what I need him to say. It's not that simple, honey. Proving financial abuse in court could take years, and most of the money's probably already spent or hidden. Litigation is expensive and uncertain. He leans forward, intense. So what do you want to do? I need information. I lean back, letting him see how tired I am, how vulnerable this has made me. During my treatment, you helped me organize all the medical paperwork and insurance claims. I need you to go through everything again with your legal background. Find out if there are other financial moves I don't know about. Zachary hesitates, and I can see the internal conflict playing out on his face. Mom, I have professional obligations as a lawyer. I can't just... You'd only be reviewing accounts related to my legitimate medical expenses. I interrupt gently. And if you find evidence of crimes, documenting that is your duty, isn't it? He stares at me for a long moment, then nods slowly. Yeah, you're right. If there's criminal activity, I have an obligation to help document it. Over the next week, Zachary dives into my financial records with the thoroughness that made him law review. And what he finds makes everything worse. Mom, this wasn't desperate response to your medical needs, he tells me over the phone, anger crackling in his voice. He used your personal information to make credit inquiries starting months before your diagnosis got worse. The transaction patterns show systematic theft, not emergency withdrawals. I'm sitting in my kitchen, staring out of the garden I couldn't maintain during chemo, feeling that cold rage crystallize into something sharper. How systematic? Transfers that went way beyond the scope of your power of attorney? He knew exactly what he was doing and when to do it to avoid triggering immediate red flags. So Jared's banking expertise wasn't just the tool of my destruction, it was the blueprint for it. Planned, calculated, methodical. Just like me. But I need more than legal ammunition. I need to know if there's any possibility of getting cooperation from his children before I have to destroy them completely. So I drive to Victoria's house on Thursday afternoon, telling myself I'm being reasonable, giving them one last chance. Maybe I can appeal to whatever relationship we once had, or at least negotiate some kind of repayment plan. The neighborhood looks exactly like I expected. Starter homes with small yards and cars that have seen better years. Victoria's place is a tiny ranch with peeling paint and a front yard that's more weeds than grass. When I ring the doorbell, I can hear children's voices inside, and something in my chest tightens. The door opens and Victoria's face immediately hardens when she sees me standing there. She's thinner than I remember, wearing a faded t-shirt and jeans with holes that don't look fashionable, and there are dark circles under her eyes that speak to sleepless nights for reasons that have nothing to do with partying. Claire, her voice is flat, guarded. What do you want? I'd like to talk, woman to woman. I keep my tone calm, non-threatening. About the money your father took from me. She glances over her shoulder, then steps outside and pulls the door almost closed behind her. I don't know much about Dad's financial decisions. You should talk to him directly about any concerns. It's like talking to a lawyer who's been coached, which maybe she has been. Victoria, I have the bank statements. I know he gave money to you and Marcus. I'm not here to attack you. I just want to understand what happened and see if we can work something out. Her entire posture changes, shoulders squaring like she's preparing for a fight. Work something out? You mean like all the times you worked things out when we needed help over the years? And there it is. The resentment I've been expecting. This is different. This is about money that was stolen from me while I was fighting cancer. Take it up with my father, she says, stepping back toward the door. I don't know anything about it. I pull out the printed bank statements, the same ones I showed Jared. These show transfers to accounts linked to you. Victoria, please. I just want to find a solution that doesn't hurt anyone. More than necessary. She looks at the papers for exactly 3 seconds before her face goes cold. I said take it up with my father. The door slams hard enough that I feel it in my chest. I stand on her porch for a full minute, listening to muffled voices inside, probably her explaining to someone why that woman was at their door, and I realize that cooperation isn't just unlikely, it's impossible. Whatever relationship we might have had once, whatever common ground we might have found, it died years ago in 1,000 small moments of mutual resentment. I call Zachary from my car. I need you to expand your documentation. Everything that shows evidence of financial misconduct. We need it all properly organized. Mom, I have to tell you, I'm getting uncomfortable with my dual role here. As your son and as a lawyer helping build a case, the apparent fraud is clear enough to justify your involvement, isn't it? A pause. Yeah, it is. The evidence is pretty damning. That evening, I'm sitting at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad making lists. Because if cooperation is impossible, then documentation becomes everything. And if documentation is everything, then I need to be very, very thorough. I start with Jared's bank. Tomorrow, I'll file a formal complaint about potential violations of their employee conduct policies. I'll provide copies of the power of attorney documents showing exactly what he was authorized to do, and bank statements showing he exceeded that authority by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Banks take employee misconduct seriously when it's documented properly, especially when it involves potential abuse of customer information. Then I remember something Victoria mentioned during one of our few family dinners, back when we were still pretending to be a family. Her contentious divorce proceedings, the custody battles, how expensive her legal fees were getting. Sudden financial changes during custody cases tend to raise questions, especially when they can't be easily explained. I pick up my phone and call the attorney who handled my separation from Jared. It takes 3 days, but she provides me with the contact information for Victoria's ex-husband's legal representation. Zachary, I say when he answers his phone Friday evening, I need you to continue helping me document the evidence despite your professional concerns. Can you do that? There's a long pause. Mom, this is getting complicated for me ethically, but yeah, the fraud is clear enough that I think I have to help you document it. Good. I'm staring at my yellow legal pad, at the neat columns of actions and consequences I've mapped out, because we're going to be very thorough. As I hang up, I feel something I haven't felt in 18 months. Power. Not the desperate, clawing kind of power you need just to survive cancer treatment, but the cold, calculating kind that comes from having options and knowing exactly how to use them. It should probably scare me more than it does. The fact that I'm willing to manipulate even my own son to get my revenge. But right now, sitting in my kitchen with my lists and my plans and my documented evidence of betrayal, all I feel is the sharp satisfaction of a woman who's finally ready to fight back. 2 weeks of methodical planning later, Zachary calls me with news that changes everything. Mom, you need to see what I found. His voice carries that sharp edge he gets when he's discovered something that pisses him off professionally. Can I come over tonight? I'm back in my kitchen, same yellow legal pad, same neat columns of documented betrayal. But now there are additional pages. Bank routing numbers, credit application dates, transaction patterns that tell a story I didn't want to believe could get worse. What is it? But I already know from his tone that whatever he found is going to make my methodical little revenge plan look quaint. Just be prepared. This wasn't desperation, Mom. This was planned. When he arrives an hour later, he spreads new printouts across my kitchen table with the precision of a prosecutor building a murder case. And honestly, that's not far off. Look at these credit inquiries, he says, pointing to highlighted dates. March, April, May of last year. Your cancer didn't get worse until June. He was researching how to access your accounts months before you needed any significant medical intervention. I stare at the dates, feeling that cold rage crystallize into something sharper. He was planning this before I was even that sick. Gets worse. Zachary flips to another page. The transaction patterns show systematic increases. He started small, probably testing to see if you'd notice, then ramped up when you were too sick to pay attention. And look at this. He shows me a spreadsheet he's created because of course he has. My son inherited my love of documentation. The amounts correspond directly with Victoria's custody hearing dates and Marcus's job loss periods. This wasn't random desperation. This was calculated resource allocation. The clinical language doesn't hide his anger. If anything, it makes it worse. My son is furious. And when Zachary gets furious, he gets methodical. Just like his mother. So what you're telling me is that my stepfamily used my cancer diagnosis as an opportunity to systematically rob me blind. That's exactly what I'm telling you. We sit in silence for a moment, surrounded by evidence of betrayal so calculated it makes my current revenge planning look amateur. Then my phone rings. Unknown number, but I answer anyway because these days I'm hoping for opportunities. Claire? The voice is shaky, uncertain. It's Marcus. Could we meet somewhere? I need to talk to you. I haven't spoken to my stepson since before my separation from his father. Honestly, I'd almost forgotten he existed in all this. Marcus always was the quiet one, the one who faded into the background while Victoria commanded attention and Jared tried to manage everyone's feelings. About what? Please, just somewhere private? I can't do this over the phone. I look at Zachary, who's listening with that lawyer expression that means he's cataloging every word for future reference. Fine. Coffee shop on Maple Street, 1 hour. Thank you. And Claire, come alone. But I don't come alone because I'm not stupid. Zachary follows in his own car and sits 3 tables away, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to give the illusion of privacy. Marcus looks like hell. 22 years old and already carrying the weight of someone twice his age. Dark circles under his eyes, hands that shake slightly when he picks up his coffee cup, that particular kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying secrets you can't bear. Thank you for meeting me, he says, not quite meeting my eyes. I wasn't sure you would. What do you want, Marcus? No point in pretending this is a social call. He stares into his coffee like it might give him courage. I know what Dad did. I know about the money. Do you now? I keep my voice neutral, but inside I'm calculating. How much does he know? When did he find out? Most importantly, can I use this? I found out by accident. After you confronted Dad that day, he was so upset he asked me to help him organize some paperwork. I saw the banking documents on his desk. Marcus finally looks up at me, and there's genuine anguish in his eyes. Claire, I had no idea it was that much money. I knew he'd been helping us financially, but I thought it came from his salary or savings. But it didn't. No. And when I realized what was really happening, I tried to talk to him. I tried to get him to stop, to figure out how to pay you back. His voice cracked slightly. But he wouldn't listen. Said it was too late, that you'd never understand, that his kids came first. And Victoria? Marcus's face hardens. Victoria knew. She knew exactly where the money was coming from. When I confronted her about it, she said you owed us for years of treating us like outsiders. Of course she did. Victoria always was the type to justify anything if it served her immediate needs. So what are you telling me, Marcus? That you're sorry? That you want to make amends? I'm telling you that I can't sleep at night knowing what they did to you while you were sick. He looks genuinely broken. I'm telling you that I've been trying for months to convince them to come forward, to admit what happened and try to work something out with you. But they won't listen. And there it is. The crack in their family solidarity I've been hoping for. I lean forward slightly, just enough to show I'm listening without appearing eager. That must be very difficult for you. Being caught between family loyalty and doing the right thing. It's tearing me apart. His voice is barely above a whisper. I love my dad and my sister, but what they did was wrong. And the way they're handling it now, digging in and refusing to acknowledge it, I don't know how to live with being part of it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Marcus, I understand your position. You're in an impossible situation. I make my voice gentle, understanding. But you need to realize that your father and sister have made their choices. They chose to steal from me while I was fighting for my life. They chose to continue lying about it when confronted. And they're choosing right now to put you in the middle of their mess, rather than taking responsibility. He nods miserably. You might want to consider whether you want to be associated with their decisions when the legal consequences start falling. I pause, letting that sink in. Because right now, it looks like all of you were equally involved. Is that really fair to you? The color drains from his face. Legal consequences? Marcus, they stole over $200,000 from me using financial fraud and identity theft. Did you think there wouldn't be legal consequences? From across the coffee shop, I can see Zachary watching this conversation with growing concern. Not about the step family, but about something else. Something in the way I'm handling this, maybe. But right now, I need to focus on the opportunity sitting across from me. I never wanted any of this, Marcus says, and I can hear genuine desperation in his voice. I just wanted Dad to do the right thing before it got worse. Then maybe you should consider doing the right thing yourself. I stand up, leaving him at the table with that thought. Think about it, Marcus. Think about whether you want to go down with them when you had nothing to do with planning this. The drive home is quiet. Zachary follows me to my house, and we don't speak until we're both in my kitchen again, surrounded by evidence and legal documents. Mom. His voice is careful, measured. What was that about? What was what about? That conversation. The way you handled Marcus. He sits down across from me, and for the first time since this started, I see something in his expression that makes me uncomfortable. It felt like you were manipulating him. I was being honest with him about the reality of his situation. You were isolating him from his family and making him feel like he needs to betray them to save himself. The word betray hangs in the air between us, because that's exactly what I was doing, and we both know it. Zachary, they stole from me while I was dying. They used my cancer as cover for systematic theft. I'm not the villain here. I know that. But watching you work him over, he runs his hand through his hair. Mom, I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable with my role in this. I'm supposed to be helping you document criminal behavior, but it feels like I'm helping you manipulate people. You're helping me get justice. Am I? Or am I helping you get revenge? The question hits harder than I expected. Not because I don't know the answer, but because he's smart enough to see the difference. Is there a difference when someone has been victimized the way I have? He doesn't answer immediately, which is answer enough. But I don't have time for moral philosophy. I have a systematic campaign to execute. Over the following weeks, I put together my plan with the methodical precision that got me through 18 months of cancer treatment. Every action calculated, every consequence anticipated. First, the police report. I walk into the station with 3 folders of evidence, bank statements, power of attorney documents, medical records showing my treatment timeline, and the credit application documentation Zachary found. I present it as a clear case of financial elder abuse and fraud. My husband used his position at the bank and my medical vulnerability to systematically steal from my trust fund. I tell the detective, a middle-aged woman who takes notes with the same careful attention I use for everything important. I have documentation showing the theft exceeded his legal authority by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The detective reviews the evidence with growing interest. Financial crimes against vulnerable adults are taken seriously, especially when they're this well documented. We'll need to investigate, but based on what you're showing me, there are definitely grounds for criminal charges. Second, Victoria's custody situation. I remember how she mentioned during our few family dinners that her legal fees were crushing her, how desperately she needed every advantage in court. Sudden, unexplained income during custody proceedings tends to raise uncomfortable questions. It takes me 3 phone calls and 1 consultation fee, but I get the contact information for her ex-husband's attorney. I don't call directly, obviously. I have my lawyer send over copies of the bank records showing large transfers to Victoria's accounts during the period of the custody dispute. My client believes the court should be aware of sudden financial changes that may not have been properly disclosed, my lawyer explains in his cover letter. Third, Jared's employment. Banks have zero tolerance for employees who violate customer financial privacy, especially when it involves personal relationships and potential fraud. I file a formal complaint with First National's Ethics Department, providing detailed documentation of how their loan officer used customer information and banking access to commit systematic theft. The complaint is thorough, professional, and devastating. I know exactly how these investigations work because I spent 20 years working in medical administration, where documentation and procedure are everything. These aren't random acts of spite. They're precision strikes designed to trap my stepfamily legally and financially. Every action I take creates consequences they can't escape, problems they can't solve by throwing more of my stolen money at them. The bank investigation moves slowly but inevitably. The police investigation opens officially. Victoria's ex-husband files new motions questioning her undisclosed income. I sit in my kitchen every evening, updating my yellow legal pad with new developments, new pressure points, new ways to ensure they can't wriggle out of the consequences they've earned. 3 weeks into my systematic campaign, my phone rings. Claire, Jared's voice is tight with fury. You have no idea what you've started. I started it? That's interesting, coming from someone who stole from his dying wife. If you keep pushing this, I swear to God, I will tell Zachary and everyone else about the specific ways you treated my children over the years. How you excluded them, how you made it clear your money was for your family only, how you created the hostile environment that led to all of this. I feel something cold settle in my chest. Not fear, exactly. Recognition. Are you threatening me, Jared? I'm telling you that if you want to destroy my family, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of stepmother you were, including your son. The line goes dead. I sit in my kitchen, surrounded by evidence and legal documents and the systematic destruction I've so carefully orchestrated, and I realize he's right about one thing. This is war now. Total war, with no possibility of reconciliation. And honestly, I'm perfectly fine with that. My systematic campaign moves faster than I anticipated, and honestly, watching it unfold feels better than any chemotherapy drug ever made me feel. The bank investigation concludes after 2 months with exactly the result I expected. Jared's suspension becomes termination when their internal audit finds significant irregularities in employee handling of customer financial information. The official letter cites violations of federal banking privacy laws and potential criminal conduct. I know this because I have a friend in HR who owed me a favor from when I helped her navigate her own medical leave paperwork 3 years ago. Jared can't just disappear quietly now. No respectable bank will touch him with a 10-foot pole, and his primary income source is gone. The man who was supposed to be managing my medical expenses while I fought for my life is now explaining to potential employers why he was terminated for financial misconduct. But the real satisfaction comes from Victoria's custody situation spiraling beyond her control. Her ex-husband's emergency motion demanding disclosure of her sudden income sources forces her into an impossible corner. Either she admits the money came from systematic theft of her stepmother's cancer fund, or she commits perjury trying to explain mysterious deposits that coincidentally match her father's withdrawal schedule. I'm updating my yellow legal pad when my phone rings. Zachary's name on the caller ID, but something in my chest tightens because he usually texts first. Mom. His voice sounds different, careful in a way that makes my blood run cold. Hi, sweetheart. How was your day? Jared called me an hour ago. The words hit like a physical blow. I set down my pen very carefully, buying myself 3 seconds to think. Did he now? He told me everything, Mom. about the family dynamics over the years, about how you treated Victoria and Marcus after their mother died, about the trust fund and how you made it clear it was for your family's security, not theirs. My mouth goes dry. Zachary, you have to understand the situation was much more complicated than whatever version he gave you. Was it? There's something in his voice I've never heard before. Doubt. Because he was pretty specific about things. Like when Victoria asked you for help with textbooks and you refused while buying me that laptop for graduation. Or how you never included them in family photos. Or how you told them the trust fund wasn't their concern when Marcus needed help with community college. Each example lands like a scalpel between my ribs. Because they're all true, and we both know it. Those situations weren't as simple as they sound, I say, but my voice lacks conviction even to my own ears. Victoria and Marcus never accepted me. I tried for years to build relationships with them, but they made it clear I wasn't welcome. So you stopped trying. I stopped subjecting myself to hostility in my own home. The words come out sharper than I intended. I had no obligation to fund their lives, Zachary. That money was my inheritance from your grandfather. It was meant to ensure my independence, not bankroll stepchildren who resented my existence. The silence stretches until I wonder if the call dropped. Zachary? I'm here. He sighs, and it sounds exhausted. Mom, why didn't you tell me about any of this? About the tensions, about your role in the family problems? My role? The accusation stings. They stole from me while I was dying. Whatever came before that doesn't justify what they did. I know the theft was wrong. I've never said it wasn't. His voice is patient but strained. But Jared made some points that are hard to ignore. About how you presented this whole situation to me. About whether you've been completely honest about the family dynamics. Something cold settles in my stomach. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying I'm starting to understand why he felt justified in what he did. And that's really disturbing to me. The words hit harder than any diagnosis ever has. Zachary, they committed crimes against me. Regardless of whatever family tensions existed, they systematically robbed me while I had cancer. I know, and what they did was absolutely wrong. But there's a hesitation in his voice that terrifies me. I'm troubled by how you presented everything to me, like you were some innocent victim of unprovoked betrayal, when it sounds like there was a lot more context you didn't share. I gripped the phone harder. I didn't think you needed to hear about years of petty family squabbles when the real issue was criminal theft. Petty family squabbles? His voice sharpens. Mom, from what Jared described, this was years of you systematically excluding his children while making it clear they weren't really family. That's not petty. They excluded themselves. I snap. They made their feelings about me perfectly clear from day one. And you responded by proving them right. The accusation hangs between us like a death sentence, because part of me knows he's not wrong, and that knowledge makes the rage burn hotter. I need some time to process all of this, Zachary says quietly. I'm not cutting you off, but I need to understand what really happened here. The whole picture, not just your version. My version is the truth. Your version is your truth. That's not the same thing. After he hangs up, I sit in my kitchen staring at my legal pad with its neat columns of strategic destruction, and for the first time since this started, I feel something that might be genuine fear. Not of losing money or facing consequences, but of losing the one relationship that actually matters to me. Over the following weeks, our conversations become shorter, less frequent. Zachary still answers when I call, but there's a distance in his voice that wasn't there before. He's polite but cautious, like he's reevaluating everything he thought he knew about his mother. Meanwhile, the legal pressure keeps building exactly as I planned. The prosecutor's office schedules a grand jury hearing to consider felony charges. Victoria's custody case spirals as her ex-husband's attorney presents evidence of undisclosed income during their divorce proceedings. The civil lawsuit I filed ensures that even if they somehow avoid criminal conviction, the legal costs will financially destroy them. Marcus calls his father repeatedly, begging him to find some way to make amends before everything becomes irreversible. I know this because I've made friends with one of Victoria's neighbors, a woman who mentioned that she often sees the young man sitting on Victoria's porch, having emotional phone conversations. Information is power, and power requires intelligence gathering. But Jared and Victoria won't listen to Marcus's pleas. They've circled the wagons telling themselves I'm the villain, that they're victims of a vindictive woman who never cared about their family. They're probably not wrong about the vindictive part. 3 months into the legal proceedings, my phone rings with a number I recognize, but haven't heard from in weeks. Claire, it's Marcus. Could we meet somewhere? I need to talk to you. His voice sounds broken in a way that makes something twist in my chest, but I'm past the point of mercy. What about? I can't do this over the phone, please. Somewhere private? I agree to meet him at the same park where we had coffee months ago, but this time I choose a bench far from any coffee shops or potential witnesses. If Marcus wants to have a conversation that could affect the legal proceedings, I want complete control over the environment. He's already waiting when I arrive, sitting hunched forward with his hands clasped between his knees, 22 years old and carrying the weight of someone twice his age. When he looks up at me, his eyes are red-rimmed with exhaustion. "Thank you for coming," he says. "I wasn't sure you would." "What do you want, Marcus?" He stares at the ground for a long moment before speaking. "I want to make this stop, before everyone gets completely destroyed." That's an interesting choice of words, considering your family started this by destroying me. I know what they did was wrong. His voice cracks slightly. But Claire, what you're doing now, it's going to destroy them completely. Dad's going to prison. Victoria's going to lose her son permanently. Is that really what you want? I study his face, looking for manipulation or deception, but all I see is genuine anguish. What are you offering me, Marcus? I'm willing to return whatever assets I still have from the money, and I'm willing to testify about what really happened, if you'll consider showing some mercy. My pulse quickens, but I keep my expression neutral. Testify about what exactly? About how it really went down. About the planning, the timing, the way they monitored your treatment schedule. He looks up at me with desperate honesty. I kept records, Claire, of my conversations with them, of my attempts to get them to stop. I documented everything because I knew it was wrong, and I thought maybe someday I could use it to convince them to come clean. This is better than I could have hoped for. You have documentation of their planning process? Texts, emails, even some recordings of phone conversations where I begged them to confess and pay you back. His voice drops to a whisper. I've been carrying this for months, trying to decide between family loyalty and doing the right thing. And what's made you decide now? Marcus's face hardens. Victoria's planning to throw Dad under the bus completely. She's going to claim in court that he coerced and manipulated her, that she was just a victim following his lead. She's willing to sacrifice our father to save herself in her custody case. The revelation hits me like Christmas morning. Victoria's legal strategy is exactly what I hoped would happen, but never dared plan for. The family turning on each other, destroying their own solidarity more effectively than I ever could. And you have a problem with that? I can't watch her do that to him. Dad's weak and he made terrible choices, but he's not some criminal mastermind who manipulated his innocent daughter. Victoria knew exactly what she was doing, and she was just as guilty as he was. Marcus's voice carries genuine anger now. If she's going to sacrifice him to save herself, then I'm done protecting any of them. I lean back on the bench, feeling the pieces of my final victory clicking into place. What exactly are you proposing? I want immunity from the worst charges in exchange for my testimony, and I want you to make sure Victoria faces appropriate consequences for what she did. No more letting her play the victim. The irony is almost perfect. Marcus isn't offering me peace, he's offering me a weapon. The very family loyalty that motivated their theft is now providing me with the means to ensure maximum consequences for all of them. I'll need to see your documentation first, I say carefully, to verify what you're claiming. I have everything on a flash drive. Texts, emails, recorded conversations, bank account screenshots, even photos of documents Dad brought home from work. He pulls a small drive from his pocket. It's all here. I take the drive, feeling its weight like a loaded gun. I'll need to review this with my legal team. If your information is as comprehensive as you claim, I can speak with the prosecutor about a cooperation agreement. Thank you. The relief in his voice is palpable. I just want this to end before it gets any worse. But I know it's going to get much worse for Victoria and Jared. Marcus's testimony and documentation will give prosecutors everything they need to paint a picture of systematic, premeditated fraud. Combined with my medical records showing vulnerability and the bank's evidence of professional misconduct, this case becomes unwinnable for them. Over the following months, I use every resource and connection I have to ensure maximum consequences. The flash drive Marcus provided contains enough evidence to support felony charges against both Jared and Victoria. I cooperate fully with Victoria's custody case, providing financial records that help her ex-husband demonstrate her unfitness as a parent. The civil lawsuit expands to include claims for emotional distress and punitive damages. When Victoria receives notice of the additional charges and civil claims, she sends me a text message that simply says, "You're destroying everything." I stare at those words in my kitchen, surrounded by legal documents and evidence files, and realize they're absolutely true. I am systematically dismantling every aspect of my stepfamily's existence. Their finances, their reputations, their family relationships, their futures. But I'm also close to winning. Complete, total victory. The final step is ensuring this story reaches the public with the right narrative. I contact a local news reporter who specializes in elder abuse cases, positioning myself as a cancer survivor victimized by her own family. The story focuses on medical vulnerability and violation of trust, not on complex family dynamics or years of mutual resentment. Woman fighting cancer, robbed by husband and stepchildren, makes for compelling television. The details about trust funds and family tensions get buried under images of me in a headscarf during treatment and testimonials about my strength and resilience. I'm reviewing the media strategy with my attorney when my phone rings. Marcus again. Claire? His voice sounds desperate in a way that makes my pulse quicken. I need to meet with you again. Alone. There's something I have to tell you that could end this whole war one way or another. I grip the phone tighter. What kind of something? Not over the phone. Please. This is important. Fine. Same place as before. 1 hour. As I hang up, I feel that familiar surge of strategic anticipation. Whatever Marcus has to tell me, whatever final piece of information he's holding, I'm ready to use it. Because this war isn't ending until I've won completely. And I'm very close to winning everything. Marcus looks like hell when I find him at the park bench, 20 minutes from both our houses in some neutral territory that feels appropriately clandestine. 22 years old and already carrying the weight of someone who's seen too much, done too much, knows too much. The dark circles under his eyes tell a story of sleepless nights and moral reckonings that would make a philosophy professor weep. Thank you for meeting me, he says, not quite meeting my eyes. I wasn't sure you would. I sit down beside him on the weathered wooden bench, noting how he's positioned himself at the far end like he's afraid I might bite. Smart kid. What do you want, Marcus? He stares at his hands for a long moment, those 22-year-old hands that have apparently been busy with activities I'm about to learn more about. I want this to stop, before everyone gets completely destroyed. Interesting choice of words, considering your family started this by destroying me while I was fighting for my life. I know what they did was wrong. His voice cracks slightly, and I feel that familiar spike of strategic interest. Cracks are opportunities. But, Claire, what you're doing now, it's going to demolish them completely. Dad's facing prison time. Victoria's going to lose her son permanently. Is that really what you want? What I want? What I want is for the last 18 months of systematic betrayal to have never happened. What I want is to not have discovered that my husband was timing his theft around my chemotherapy appointments like some kind of cancer vampire. But since we're dealing with reality instead of wishes, I'll settle for total victory. What are you offering me, Marcus? I'm ready to return whatever assets I still have from the money. He takes a shaky breath, and I'm willing to testify against Dad and Victoria in exchange for you dropping some of the charges and ending the public campaign. My pulse quickens, but I keep my expression neutral. This is better than Christmas morning and my birthday combined. Testify about what, exactly? About how it really went down. The planning, the execution, the credit fraud. He finally looks up at me, and there's genuine anguish in his eyes. I participated in receiving some of the money, and I knew about the credit applications. I can't pretend I didn't. For exactly 3 seconds I feel something that might be mercy. A tiny voice in the back of my head whispers that maybe this could end here, that maybe total destruction isn't necessary, that maybe having one of them admit wrongdoing and offer restitution could be enough. Then Marcus keeps talking. The thing is, I can't watch what's happening to our family anymore. Watching Dad and Victoria destroy each other has broken something in me. This has gone too far on both sides. Both sides. Like I'm somehow equally responsible for being robbed while fighting cancer. But I let him continue because I can hear there's more coming. But the real reason I'm willing to do this, his face hardens in a way that makes him look disturbingly like his father. Victoria's planning to blame everything on Dad in court. She's going to claim she was coerced and manipulated by him, that she was just a victim following his lead. The revelation hits me like the best possible diagnosis news. Victoria's legal strategy is exactly what I hoped would happen, but never dared plan for. She's going to sacrifice our father to save herself in her custody case. Marcus continues, anger bleeding into his voice. I can't watch her do that to him. Dad's weak and he made terrible choices, but he's not some criminal mastermind who manipulated his innocent daughter. Victoria knew exactly what she was doing. And there it is. The family loyalty that motivated their theft is now providing me with the weapon to ensure maximum consequences for all of them. The irony is so perfect it makes my teeth ache. So you'd rather expose everything than let your sister escape responsibility. I'd rather tell the truth than watch her destroy Dad to save herself. I lean back on the bench, feeling the pieces of my final victory clicking into place with mechanical precision. Marcus isn't offering me peace. He's offering me a nuclear weapon disguised as a white flag. What do you want in exchange for your testimony? Immunity from the worst charges. And I want you to make sure Victoria faces appropriate consequences for what she did. His voice carries genuine fury now. If she's going to sacrifice Dad to save herself, then I'm done protecting any of them. I study his face, looking for deception or manipulation, but all I see is the righteous anger of someone who's discovered his sister is willing to throw their father under a legal bus. The same anger I've been carrying for months, just pointed in a different direction. I'll need to review your evidence first, I say carefully, to verify what you're claiming. He pulls a flash drive from his pocket like he's been carrying it around for weeks, waiting for this moment. Everything's here. Texts, emails, bank records, even recordings of conversations where I begged them to confess and pay you back. I take the drive, feeling its weight like a loaded gun. If your information is as comprehensive as you claim, I can speak with the prosecutor about a cooperation agreement. Thank you. The relief in his voice is palpable. I just want this nightmare to end. But I know it's just beginning for his father and sister, because what Marcus has given me isn't just evidence, it's a roadmap to total destruction. I understand then that my legal campaign has worked so well that the family has turned on each other exactly as I'd hoped they would. The pressure I've applied, the systematic building of consequences, the careful manipulation of their legal and financial situations, all of it has pushed them past the breaking point, where family loyalty becomes impossible to maintain. I'll work with prosecutors to give you a cooperation agreement if you testify to everything, I tell him. The planning, the execution, the credit fraud, all of it. The legal proceedings move forward over the following year with the inexorable precision of a well-built machine. My stepson provides documentation of every transaction, every forged document, every deliberate theft that went beyond what was necessary for my medical care. Because apparently when you're systematically robbing your dying stepmother, there's a difference between necessary medical expenses and whatever the hell we feel like taking. He testifies that his father orchestrated the scheme and his sister was an enthusiastic participant, not some manipulated victim. He describes in methodical detail how they monitored my chemotherapy schedule to time the withdrawals, like they were coordinating around my cancer treatment the way normal families coordinate around vacation schedules. I sit in the courtroom watching my husband's face as his own son methodically exposes the entire conspiracy. The man who promised to love me in sickness and in health instead used my sickness as a business opportunity. The satisfaction is better than any pain medication they gave me during treatment. My stepdaughter tries to claim coercion and family desperation, tries to talk about my coldness and the complex family dynamics that supposedly justified systematic theft. But my legal team is prepared because I've spent months preparing them for exactly these arguments. They present my medical records showing how vulnerable I had been during treatment. They present the bank statements showing the systematic nature of the theft. They present the power of attorney documents showing clear violations of legal authority. They have character witnesses who describe me as a devoted wife who was abandoned in her time of greatest need. The narrative is airtight because I've controlled every element of it. My stepdaughter's attempts to complicate the story with family dynamics and emotional complexity run headfirst into the simple, devastating fact that they robbed a cancer patient. The court acknowledges the difficult family dynamics, but finds them insufficient to justify the systematic financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Complex family relationships don't actually provide legal justification for theft, regardless of how much my stepdaughter wishes they did. The verdict comes back in my favor on most counts because justice, when properly documented and strategically presented, has a way of being satisfying. My husband is sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution he has no ability to provide. My stepdaughter receives probation but loses primary custody of her child permanently. I win a civil judgment of $600,000 against them jointly, knowing I'll never collect it all, but not caring, because the money stopped being the point months ago. As the court proceedings conclude, my stepdaughter looks directly at me with tears streaming down her face and mouths. I hope it was worth it. I look back at her with no expression at all, because the question of whether it was worth it implies I had other options, and I stopped having options the moment they decided to use my cancer as their personal ATM. My stepson receives minimal punishment as part of his cooperation deal, but as he passes me in the courthouse hallway, he won't meet my eyes. I realize he understands that I used his betrayal of his family just as skillfully as I used everything else. The boy thought he was choosing justice over family loyalty, but really he was just choosing to be my weapon instead of theirs. Outside the courthouse, reporters ask for my reaction to the verdict. I give a prepared statement about justice for vulnerable adults and the importance of protecting people from financial exploitation by family members. I play the role of the grateful survivor perfectly, talking about faith in the legal system and hope for other victims. The cameras love me. The gray-haired cancer survivor who fought back against family betrayal makes for compelling television. The story will run on the evening news with exactly the narrative I crafted. My phone shows several missed calls from my son. Our relationship has been strained since he learned about the family dynamics that preceded the theft, since he started questioning whether I'd presented the whole truth about my role in years of family dysfunction. He's struggling with the complexity of loving a mother who might not be the innocent victim she initially appeared to be. I'll call him back later. Right now, I want to savor this moment of complete victory. As I drive home to my empty house that I successfully defended from theft, I pass by my stepdaughter's old neighborhood. At a small house with a tiny front yard, I see the disabled child being picked up by his father for visitation, now living primarily away from his mother thanks to my systematic legal campaign. The boy is 6 years old with developmental delays that require consistent routine and specialized care. He's being transferred between households because his mother participated in stealing from me, and I made sure the court knew about her sudden, unexplained income during custody proceedings. I watched the father help the confused child into his car and drive away, leaving the mother standing alone on her porch. I pull into my own driveway and sit in the car looking at the house I won, thinking about the judgment I secured and the family I completely destroyed. The legal victory is total. The financial consequences are devastating. The family unit that betrayed me has been systematically dismantled, and I feel absolutely nothing at all. Not satisfaction, not regret, not triumph, not guilt. Just the cold emptiness of someone who has achieved exactly what they set out to achieve, and discovered that victory tastes like nothing when you've had to become someone you don't recognize to claim it. I sit in my car for a long time, looking at my house and my life and my perfect revenge, feeling absolutely nothing at all.